thanks again for joining us. My name is Kyle Lee. I'm our Senior Construction Solutions Specialist here at ATG USA. And today in our webinar, we're going to be talking about leveraging the cloud beyond design with Autodesk Build. So in today's webinar, this is being recorded and we will be publishing this to our YouTube channel. So if you happen to be catching this webinar after the fact on YouTube, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the ATG USA YouTube channel so you'll be notified of all the new content that we'll be posting across all of our different teams. And also feel free to give us a like on this video as well. So again, today talking about leveraging the cloud beyond design with Autodesk Build. And so to kind of kick things off and set the stage, we really want to look at this from the perspective of teams that are already leveraging the BIM Collaborate Pro offering, which is the tool that allows you to connect your design software with the cloud and actually host your live design project files in the cloud and work on those collaboratively, specifically across the Revit software, Civil 3D software, or Plant 3D software. So we're going to be looking at this from the perspective of a firm that may already be utilizing BIM Collaborate Pro from the design aspect, but then now we want to look at ways and talk about ways, or even begin to think about ways that we could potentially begin to continue to leverage the Autodesk Construction Cloud Unified Platform downstream after the design process has wrapped up. Okay, so today's webinar is going to probably be just a little bit shorter than some of my normal ones because I'm going to be presenting by myself today, but I really think that we've got some great content to share, and I think it's really going to be worth the time that we have here today. So I've got a poll question that I want to launch here, so I'm going to go ahead and move to that. And I'm going to go ahead and launch our poll question here. And so our poll question is, what is your team's level of familiarity with BIM Collaborate Pro? And the options that you have here are, we know it's a design tool, but we don't participate in the design process. We've heard of it, but we've not used it during project design to this point. We've used it on a few projects, but only because it was required for the project, or we fully adopted it and use it on all projects, regardless of the other project design team's participation with the platform. So I'm gonna let that poll stay up for just a few moments here while we get some of the responses coming in there. All right, and I'm liking what I'm seeing here. Yeah, we got quite a few that are saying that you've used it on a few projects, but because it was required, and I've got a smaller percentage that are a little bit smaller percentage that are saying you fully adopted it. So glad to hear that. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll and shut that down. All right, and so we'll move forward here. So again, reasons why you would want to leverage the Autodesk Construction Cloud Unified Platform and build beyond the design process. And again, as I mentioned before, really suited towards people that are already using BIM Collaborate Pro. But another caveat that I want to put on this discussion is we're also going to be kind of having this discussion from the perspective where your teams that are using BIM Collaborate Pro are also hosting those cloud-based projects on the new Construction Cloud Unified Platform. And that's going to play into our third bullet point that we're going to be covering here. But so the main things that we're going to want to talk about today, and we're definitely going to be talking about a little bit, we've got a couple of slides to show, but we're going to be going directly into the platform to take a look at some of these things as well. But again, the points we want to cover today is really the Construction Cloud Unified Platform is a purpose-built platform for utilizing the Autodesk design file formats and many more. And we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. Also, the construction administration process is required. So it's important to have an increased control over your team's contributions to the to that information that is being provided to the GCs and to the project teams during the construction administration process. We're going to talk about ways that you can have a little bit of a higher level of control over that as well within the platform. And then last, but certainly not least, we're going to talk about ways that we can easily share files and sheets between different Construction Cloud Unified Platform projects. And that's why I made that caveat just a moment ago about looking at this from the perspective where your team's already leveraging BIM Collaborate Pro in the unified platform as well. So that's going to play into that last point that we're going to be talking about. So, all right, so let's talk a little bit about the fact that The Construction Cloud Unified Platform, and really Autodesk's move into any and all of their cloud-based solutions, really started back in around 2015 with the introduction of collaboration for Revit, which then evolved into BIM 360 Design, the next generation BIM 360 platform, and now into the Construction Cloud Unified Platform and a product called BIM Collaborate Pro. And really, as Autodesk started this journey, it was the platforms themselves, both the next generation BIM 360 platform, as well as now the Construction Cloud Unified Platform. These are platforms that were purpose built for being able to leverage those native design files and design file types that are being produced from the Autodesk software. But as you can see here on the screen, there are so many other different file types that could be leveraged within the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So right here, I've just gone through, I went to the Autodesk Knowledge Network and basically did a Google search for Autodesk Construction Cloud supported file types. And this was the list that was provided to me. You can go out and do that search yourself. Go to the link that's for the Autodesk Knowledge Network. And so as you can see here, this is a list of 83 different file types that can be leveraged within the Autodesk Construction Cloud and the Unified Platform. Those that have been bolded, these are Autodesk specific file types as well. But as you can see here, we've got all kinds of different file types. .doc, Word documents, JPEGs for photos. We've also got our RVT files for Revit. We've got XLS files for Excel. And we've also got, again, the ability to leverage other file types like IFC also. And so, this is very, very important. And the reason that I feel this is so important, because as I have conversations with clients, it never fails that one of the questions that gets asked from teams that are really starting their journey towards the cloud for all of their business, you might say, not just specifically their project design or even construction administration, but they say, Kyle, what really sets the Autodesk Construction Cloud apart from any of these other cloud-based platforms that we might want to leverage? And my answer to that question is always the same. And it's what I've just mentioned before. This is a purpose-built platform to be able to leverage those design file types. Being able to, in the case of with BIM Collaborate Pro, being able to host your Revit Central model into your cloud project, your teams having the ability to, multiple different contributors open and edit that model simultaneously through the use of work sets. And then also being able to leverage just the web interface or even the mobile device to go in and view these different files that are being stored up there, even if it's somebody that doesn't actually have a license of Revit or have the software installed on their machine. They can go in there and they can actually view and see the progress that the model is taking over the course of the project, and they can do that from within the web interface or even on the mobile device. And again, I stress that so much because most of the other platforms that are out there, specifically project management and field management platforms that are out there, they're really only able to leverage, or primarily they are leveraging PDF files. Okay, now as you can see here on the screen, we can leverage PDF files in the Construction Cloud Unified Platform, but that's not the only file type that we have the ability to use there. And as most of our teams know, especially those that are involved in design, when you convert your design file into a PDF, we're stripping out all of that rich metadata that's so important to what we're trying to achieve, or possibly even the information that we're trying to relay to the other project partners, whether it be the other design teams or even more so to the field teams, so the folks that are out in the field doing the installations, or possibly out in the field from your own team doing construction administration, observations, site walks, etc. there. Okay. And one other thing that I'd like to call out when we're talking about the different files and file types that can be leveraged within the Construction Cloud Unified Platform is the fact that this has a built-in integration with Office 365. Okay, so if your team is using Microsoft Office 365, it's very easy to leverage that subscription in conjunction with your Construction Cloud Unified Platform subscription. Let's take a quick look at what I mean here inside of the platform itself. So let me move over into Build. All right, great. So should be able to see that I'm now currently inside of the Construction Cloud Unified Platform. I'm in one of my projects. This is just a project called ACCKL Sandbox, okay? I'm in Build. It brings me to the home screen, but I want to go into the Files area because I want to talk about and kind of demonstrate in a little bit more detail this integration, this built-in integration that I was just speaking of with Microsoft Office 365. So if I go into one of my folders where I know that I have some Word documents saved, right here, I've got a Word document saved. It's called document example. Okay. And so number one, I can go in and I can view that file and where that file is at, the version of the file. And when I open it up, I can see it says document example. I can see the Word document here. But what's even more important and why that integration is so important is because in many cases, if I would need to make any changes, any updates to this Word document or possibly to an Excel spreadsheet, I would have to download this file from the platform, make my changes on my local machine using my desktop product, my desktop version of Word, save that file, and then re-upload that file back into the unified platform environment there, and it would create a new version. But with this built-in integration, that's not necessary. It really helps to streamline that process. So when we come into a Word document or again an Excel spreadsheet, if I need to make changes to this, there's no need to download this anymore to make my changes. I can just come right up here into this area at the top, and you see I've got this edit button. Now, granted, my permission level within the project in the project folder is going to be integral to me having the ability to edit, because if someone just has a view only capability into a folder and therefore they have that level of access to the files within that folder, then I would not have this edit button here. But because I do have view as well as edit permissions, I can come in here and I can hit this edit button. And so as you can see, it's basically opening up the web-based version of Microsoft Word. And so now I can come in here. You can see that this is saved into Autodesk. And so I can come into this Word document and I can start adding information that's necessary for this. So I might say, webinar example 1, KL, and then I'll put in the date. All right, great. So I've made those changes. As you can see right up here, it says it's saving that, and now it says it's saved to Autodesk. Okay, so at this point, I can do one of two things. I could possibly jump back to viewing only. I could say I wanted to go into review mode so I could add comments and suggest changes, or I can jump myself right back into my Autodesk Build project and into the files area where we were at just a moment ago. And one thing I'm going to call out before I do that as well is when we opened this file up before I made these changes, that was version number 6 of that file. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump back out into Build. You can see that we're coming back into Build and in the files area. And I'm going to go back into the external share folder where I had that document. And so right here, you can see when we look at this document, it is already upgraded to be version number 7 of that document. And if I click on that document, we go into the viewer, we can see the information that I just added there. So again, that built-in integration between Office 365 and the Construction Cloud Unified Platform can be very, very beneficial. It can really help to streamline your team's workflows when making edits or making changes to Excel spreadsheets, Word documents. We can even edit PowerPoint slide decks in there as well. So I feel like that's something that's a very beneficial addition and something that a lot of teams can leverage, but may or may not be aware that it's available there. So I always like to call out that built-in integration between the Office 365 products and the Construction Cloud Unified Platform. All right, so let's jump right back over into my slide deck here. Oops. All right. And so moving on, next thing I want to talk about is the fact that, the construction administration process is a requirement. All teams are having to do it. Again, whether you're the design architect or you're part of the mechanical or electrical design teams, structural design teams, even after your design team has wrapped up their design portion of the project, there's still members of your team that are participating in the construction administration process. And as I mentioned before, many times that's in observations or site walks. You're filling out your own team's, punch lists or checklists. And in many cases, those may have been derived from Word documents or PDF documents that your teams let use for a long time to go out and do these different site walks or site visits. But the key now is trying to make all of that digitized and having it stored in that same cloud location as the remainder of the project data. And so I'm going to show you here in just a minute. We're going to talk a little bit more about how teams can have increased control over what your contributions are, your team's contributions are back into the project, into the CA process. Okay, we're going to talk about that from the standpoint of checklists and punch lists. So I'm going to go ahead and move right back out into the next generation platform here. All right, so let me go ahead and back out of the Word document we were taking a look at. So when we're within Build, the area that we're really going to be leveraging from that checklist, punch list standpoint is the forms area. So again, that's exactly what forms are. They can be looked at as your checklist, your punch list, whether those are related to safety, to quality. We even have the ability to build out checklists that are daily safety, like we've got one here that's daily safety inspections. I've also got a daily report example here as well. Okay, but again, when we stop and think about the way that your teams have done this traditionally and throughout in the past, like I mentioned a few moments ago, you may still be leveraging a punch list that your team has used for years. And in certain cases in the past, it may have even been to the point where you were printing out a physical copy of that, a paper copy, putting it on a clipboard and walking out there with your pen or your pencil and filling out that checklist in the field. And so within the Construction Cloud Unified Platform and inside of Build, one of the things that I feel is really, really helpful, we're actually going to talk about two things that I think can help to give you more control over that process, but we have the ability to take that same form that your team may have been using for years and actually set it up as your punch list or checklist that can then be completed either through the web interface, which is where we're at now, or out on a mobile device through the PlanGrid Build mobile app. And so what I'm going to do here for this example, we're going to take a look at a fillable PDF form that I've got here. Okay, just this project inspection form. These are fillable blanks here. This is just a text box. These are check boxes right here. But as you can see, fairly simple, but to the point of what we're doing here. It's a project inspection form. We can fill out the pertinent information. But what I want to do now that we can see that this is a fillable PDF form, I'm going to show you how we can set this up as the observation checklist, or in this case, the inspection form that your team would be using. And again, because this is what they've been familiar with using for quite some time at this point. So the way that we can do this is either you could provide that fillable PDF form to the project administrator that might be running the project, especially if it's from a GC's perspective, or you could even request that the GC and the project administrator for the GC team give you adequate permission to come in and actually establish that form for yourself and for your team's use. And so what we would do is we could come in here to the templates tab inside of forms, and we could say we want to create a new template. And there are two ways that we can create forms templates inside of the Construction Cloud Unified Platform. The first way is to build a new form that's built natively within the platform. For anyone that may have leveraged the field management module within the next generation BIM 360 platform, this was the only way that we had to basically provide punch lists or checklists. We had to manually go in and build those out within the platform, set up the questions, set up the, whether it's a text box answer, if it's a multiple choice answer, et cetera. And then that's actually a punch list that's built into the system itself. Also though, and now with the unified platform, we have the ability to upload an existing fillable PDF form. And that's exactly what we want to do today. And that's really what plays right into what I was discussing a moment ago around having that ability to take that document or that PDF in this case that your team has always used in the past, but still being able to set it up in the cloud environment of the project that you're working on, and then being able to leverage that on a mobile device, and still, again, ultimately being able to provide the digital output of that particular visit there. So I'm going to say we want to upload an existing PDF form. Click that next button. Now I'm going to, and actually I was just going to drag and drop, but I'm going to go ahead and just do from your computer because I'm in the middle of the share right now. That particular PDF form, I just threw it on my desktop earlier. And so here's our inspection form fillable right here. So I'm going to open that up. As you can see, it's being uploaded into the system right now. And upload is completed. If I happen to have grabbed the wrong form, I can always delete that, but I just want to say next. So now we're going to give the form template a name. So we're just going to call this, I'm going to call this site inspection form. And then we're going to give it a template type. And so in this case, if we wanted to, we could say it's a daily report. We might even say that this is a quality report. But you can see we have different options of template types here so that we can sort and filter by template types in the system as well. So again, you can see daily reports, quality, safety, punch list, commissioning, timesheet, or other. In this case, I'm going to say it's a quality report. Now, other things that we can do is we can also have the ability to enter in additional information that is not a part of the form, but still a part of the platform and would still be submitted as a part of this form when it gets completed. So as you can see here in this fillable form, we do have a notes section here. So we may not need to include the notes from within the platform itself, but we can do that. And I'm going to leave that turned on. But even more importantly, I want to check mark and have the ability to include and automatically include the weather information for the project job site, given that you've built that in when you set the project up, that you've actually provided the physical address for the project location. So then we're just going to say next here. And now we're going to select how contributors should be able to work together. Okay, we've got a couple of different options here. We do have just single contributor. One contributor creates and then submits the report. They're the only person that they're going to start the report, they're going to finish the report, they're going to submit it, and they're the only person that's going to touch that report. Then we also have the ability to look at ways that multiple people could potentially contribute to the same form, the same site observation, or in this case, site inspection form. And so the two different options that we have here is multiple contributors in sequence. That means that one contributor does their part, they then hand it off to another contributor for the form. And then the third and final way, multiple contributors in parallel. So that means that whoever you have named as a contributor, all three, all four, however many number of people that might be, they could all go into that form at the same time. But now one thing, and any one of them can submit the report. Now, one thing to call out though is that this workflow is not currently available for the PDF templates yet, but I always call it out because it's an option. Now, for the sake of our conversation today, I'm just going to set this as single contributor. It's a very short form. It should be something that any one individual could complete. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Tells you to add who is going to be able to contribute to the template or create new forms from that particular template. And then next, it tells us who can be set as reviewers of those particular reports. Okay. And we can also check mark the box here to allow the reviewers the ability to view any of those that are still in draft status but have not been submitted, maybe because they've not been fully completed yet. So once we go through those steps, we just hit create. And it's going to create us a new template here that is our site inspection form. And so I'm just going to be demonstrating this from the perspective of inside of the web environment for today, but we would have this template available out on the mobile device as well. But I can come in here and I could say, hey, I want to create a new form, and I'm going to do this from the site inspection form. And so when I do that, as you can see here, it starts to pull in the weather information for the area where my project is located. And then right down here, we see that we have the fillable PDF form itself here, okay? If I want to, and if I have project locations built in, I can set the location for where this checklist was completed at, or if we don't have the locations configured for the project, we could also just leverage the description box here. So it might say, Tower 1, floor 103. Okay. Also, we have the ability, even with a fillable PDF form, to add references to other files, to photos, to issues, or even to other forms. And as I mentioned before, we did have the ability, and we left this turned on, where we could add additional notes directly within this area rather than our notes area down here. That may not be as necessary on a form like this because it looks like we have a fairly robust area and a very large piece of landscape there that we could actually contribute our notes here within the smart PDF form or the fillable PDF form. So then when we come in here, we can just select the fillable box, project name. I'm just going to say Kale Sandbox. Inspection date. We can set this up and just put in today's date. All right. And inspection done by. All right. So these are set up as just check mark boxes. So it's not a, if I check mark, you know, I'm just going to get the check box in there. Okay. It's not like we're having to type in anything there. So we're going to say this is pass, and we can add any notes that we might need to as well in this case. Okay. So again, very, very simple form that we've got here for this example, but just wanted to show you how your team could continue to leverage the existing documents that you may have already used in the past, but you can do that now on any projects that you may get invited into on the Build, within Build on the unified platform. And so after we've completed that, we can go ahead and hit submit. It tells me that once I submit the form, we won't be able to make any changes. So I'm going to go ahead though, and I'm going to submit that. So I've just submitted that. As you can see, it saved successfully, submitted successfully. And as you can see, I have the ability to export and copy, or I can archive this form, but you can see that it's telling us right up here that it's submitted. And if we go back to our forms area and we look at our forms, we can see that that was marked as submitted, tells you who it was created by. You can also see when it was last updated and who it was last updated by in our forms there. And as I mentioned before, we do also have the ability to filter. Now, another thing that you can do here within the forms area that again could give you a higher level of control over the information that you're contributing is we also have the ability, when we look at our form templates, to also possibly import a form that your team may have used previously, either on a different Construction Cloud Unified Platform project that you still have access to or you're still a member of. We could also import. So again, that's just using the import button. It tells me I could import from another Autodesk Build project. Okay, keeps all of the different logic settings in there that you had. But again, as it says here, you will need to reassign the template contributors, reviewers, and managers. If we had previously been working in PlanGrid or had worked on a PlanGrid project in the past where we had access to a punch list or a checklist that we really liked, as long as we're still a member of that PlanGrid project, I could always check mark that, and then it would ask me where I want to pull that from. Same way as well, if you're working on a team that may have previously leveraged BIM 360 field management and any checklist or punch list there, we could say that we wanted to pull that from a next generation BIM 360 field management project. And so I'll go with that because I've got a couple on field management, and I'm just going to say next. And then it's going to ask me to select the project that I'm going to be grabbing that from. And this is the exact same if I'd done this within any of those three options. So if I were to do this from Autodesk Build, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to ask me which project are we looking at, and then it would ask me to go in and find the punch list itself. But because I said Autodesk Build, it's only looking at my build projects. It's not looking into any of the PlanGrid projects, nor is it looking into the BIM 360 field management projects where we may have had checklists. So I know I've got some in a BIM 360 field management project. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to look for, I've got a project called Coyote Sandbox. So let me get to that. Bear with me. Oops. A little bit too far. Okay, let's see here. Just passed it right there. So which one do I want to grab? Okay, I've got several different ones set up here. I'm just going to say I want this equipment anchoring checklist. And again, these would have been those different checklists and punch lists that were built from within the platform itself, not a template that were not from a project that was created off of a fillable PDF form. So I just hit that, and as you can see, it's starting to import that template. And then when that gets completed, we'll start to see the equipment anchoring checklist show up as an available template that we can then begin to create new forms from. So as you can see, that just completed. It came in, it's check marked. And also another thing to keep in mind here as well, we talked about, getting the templates in here and then creating the forms from those templates. But another thing that you have the ability to do once you have a template in here is you also have the ability to edit that checklist template. Okay, so for one that was actually built within the platform, we just hit edit and we get this box that pops up here. We'd say we want to modify template. And so it's going to bring us into the checklist builder area. And this is the same area that you would be leveraging if you were building one out from scratch within the platform. If we were to grab one that was created from a fillable PDF form and we say we want to edit, as you can see here, we have the ability to edit the name, location, the template type. We also have the ability to delete it if we needed to, but most importantly, if we ever needed to update that, if we've added some new areas to the checklist that now need to be incorporated with our inspections, we can just replace that PDF with the updated version. This is also where we can still come in and elect to either turn the weather off or on, same with the notes. We can also come in here and manipulate who are the contributors. Contributors are those that can create the form and fill out those forms. We could control the collaboration mode, the different reviewers on the project. And again, this could be set by a user level, or it could be set by a role-based level here as well as with our managers here. Okay, so again, having that ability to pull in checklists and punch lists that your teams are familiar with is only going to help to streamline their use of the platform, their interaction with the platform, with tools. And again, I feel that it gives you the ability to have a better control over the information that you want to contribute to the project, more so than someone saying, hey, here's this checklist we want you to use. Sorry, you've never probably used it before. We might be asking for a whole lot more than what you typically would fill out there. Just try to figure it out. In this way, you can just reach out to the project administrator, say we already have our own checklist that we want to use. Would you, how can we work together to get those set up? And could you make me an administrator in this area long enough for us to get that set up for our teams to work with there? Okay. All right. So we spent probably a few minutes more in that area than what I typically may have intended to, but let's go ahead and jump back into the slideshow. And let's go ahead and take a look at the last point that I wanted to talk about today. And this is very, very important. And this is there's some new features and functionalities that have been rolled out that are providing this functionality within the Construction Cloud Unified Platform. And again, I mentioned this at the beginning of the webinar, and I will throw that caveat out there again, that when we talk about the ability to easily share files and sheets, again, this is between different Construction Cloud Unified Platform projects. This would not work if your team is working in the BIM 360 platform or next generation BIM 360 platform, but your GC that's on the project is working in the unified platform with Autodesk Build. So it would definitely be across unified platform to unified platform type projects here. So let's go ahead and jump back into Autodesk Build on the web. Let's see here. All right. And so in this case, we're going to take a look at this from the standpoint of sheets and files, but we'll go ahead and we'll start off with the files area. Oh, not sure what happened there. All right, great. Just timed out on me. And also to help to kind of better demonstrate this functionality within the platform, I've also opened up a second project right here. This is just my ACCKL new R22 project, but we're going to start this process from within my sandbox project here. So let's say that I've got files that are in this project that, let's start with the example of my team. We began project design. We were working on project design with BIM Collaborate Pro, and whether it was your team that hosted that project, invited the other project team members in, or whether maybe it was the architect that created the project and invited you in, the reality of it is that as we move from design into pre-construction and into construction execution, that's typically where your GCs are going to take over, and they want to quote unquote own or control that aspect of the project. So they would most likely be setting up that same project in their own Construction Cloud Unified Platform site here. Okay, but we've got different files. Maybe we got some files that have been provided from the construction teams that we want to not only have here on the site or within the project that we're administrating the execution from, but we also want to get that information back into our site and our project that we created for hosting and for doing the design work out of. And then also, you know, on the other side of that coin, we may also have, you know, information. We may still be completing some level of the design aspect, and so as we have new updates that are published from our Revit model, we might want those files and those updates to come directly here into the GC's project that they've created as well. So the way we can do this, now we can do a share between projects for an individual file, but keep in mind, if we do that for an individual file, it's a one-time share. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean by this. So we would just select if we're doing it just with one single file, we would just select that single file and we would hit share. We'd say we want to share it with another project. Now, we have this box here that says automatically sync updates to the target project. So you've got to understand though that if we select this, we can't do that, and it's popping this up here because we've only selected an individual file. Okay, can't sync individually selected files. Remove this file and select a folder which contains the file, and then we can set up the automatic syncing. Okay, so let me back up just a moment. I wanted everyone to see that. That's, you know, I want to call that out. In order to make this an automated share between two different projects, we need to do that share from a folder level, or in this case here, possibly from a subfolder level, because if we share from this top level parent folder, it does not capture files or subfolders below that parent folder. So we're going to go into external share, and I'm going to go to my share button here. I'm going to say I want to share this with another project, and I'm going to check mark this box here that says automatically sync updates to the target project. So now I'm going to say, what is my target project? In this case, I'm going to use that ACCKL new R22 project. And now I need to select a folder from within that project where we're going to have these different files land in. Okay, so I'm going to go into my project here. I'm going to expand out the project files area, and I've got a folder that I created called From GC Sandbox. So I'm going to select that. Now I'm going to hit share. So now this is going to essentially copy any and all of these different files that are here in this folder, and it's going to put them into the From GC Sandbox folder inside of the ACCKL new R22 project. Okay, if any of these documents, if any new documents get added into this folder, or if there are any new versions of any of these documents, so if we went in and updated this template document or even the document example, it's going to, after that those changes happen, it's going to automatically push those new versions over into your destination or your target project and in the destination folder that you've selected. Another thing that people can do, because there's always the question of, okay, but will I be notified when these changes take place? Yes, you can. Okay, but the way that you do that is you would do that by using the subscribe button, and we can use subscribe at an individual folder level, or we can use it, say, at a top level folder and say we want to subscribe to that folder and all subfolders. What that means is that you're going to get an email notification when there are changes to any of the files in those folders. So change being either a brand new file uploaded, or again, a new version of a file is uploaded. And so when that happens, if you have the subscribe turned on, you would get an email notification saying this file has been added or there's a new version of this file available in your project. And then you could click a button in that email that would take you directly to that. Okay. Now, let's also take this a step further, and let's say that this ACC KL new R22, let's say this is the project where the design work has been completed from the use of BIM Collaborate Pro. Okay. So in this case, I've got my design files folder here, and I've got, architecture, mechanical, and I'm going to look at architecture, mechanical, and plumbing. So what I can do here is I can select my architectural folder. This is a cloud hosted Revit model. I can say I want to share this with another project. I am going to say that I want it to automatically sync updates. And in this case, I'm going to go into the sandbox project. And now I'm going to select my destination folder here. And so I'm going to go into design and into the architectural folder here and select that. Now we've got the automatic sync updates turned on. We hit share. And so now as the architectural team is working on their Revit file, it's been cloud hosted, when they publish a new version of their file from Revit out to the web interface, not only are we going to start to see the new version showing up here, it's going to automatically push that newest version back into the ACC KL sandbox project. So I'll just show you really quickly. We can, again, do this very quickly for the other design teams. Share with another project. Go ahead and check mark that automatically sync updates. Go back to our target project. And then let's make sure we go into the correct destination folder here, which is going to be design and mechanical. All right, so no need to go ahead and do that with all of those. I think that everybody kind of gets the gist of how that works there. But another thing to kind of call out is that sharing capability. And we've been talking about it with files. I'm going to talk about it with sheets in just one moment, but that sharing capability is leveraging this tool within Build called Bridge. Okay, so if we were to go to the Bridge area, it's going to tell us any and all of the different files or sheets that are incoming. We see if it's files or if it's sheets. We can see a date and time associated with when that came in as well. We can see any outgoing files or sheets that we're sending to another project. We can see last date and time they were sent out, what type of information is it, what project was it sent to, and who was the last person that basically initiated that. But also, I want to look at the automations here. So as you can see, we've got incoming automation for one folder, that one folder being to the from GC Sandbox. If I click on that, it'll take me to that. And then let me back up here. And then also we've got the two folders that are outgoing from this project into the ACC KL Sandbox project. So we can look at those automations. We can also look and see which projects we have bridged in with this one, the number of admins, the account that that project is hosted from, and we also have the ability to delete the bridge and end any of the automations, okay? So I like to call that out because, again, this bridge feature and tool is what we're utilizing to complete that process there. The last thing I wanted to show when it comes to the ability to easily share files and sheets, well, we need to talk about the sheets aspect, okay? So our sheets are essentially our published construction documents, okay? And so in this particular project, I've got a bunch of different sheets in here. You can see architectural sheets, you can see electrical sheets. I've even got some mechanical sheets in there. And we had the ability to come in, and let me actually refresh my screen really quick so that can catch up. See if we can start seeing our versions there. All right, great. So what we can do here is, let's say, since this is the project that we were working out of, if we're using Build even during the design phase, you might be publishing sheets into the design project, okay? But I need those sheets to go over into the target project, okay, which is the ACC KL Sandbox. So I can always come in here and I can select either certain number of sheets, or I can select all sheets. I can say that I want to share. Exact same interface for the share box here that pops up. We can say we want to share it with another project, but then all we have to do is we only have to select the project itself that we want to share those with. We're not, because they'll automatically go into the sheets area. No need to worry about a destination folder or anything to that nature, because it's automatically going to push these into the sheets area. And so I could just come down here and grab my sandbox. And then here's the important piece right here, making sure that we automatically send new sheet versions. So once I do this and hit share, I'm not going to go through the remainder of the process. It's straightforward. But once I do that, hit share, if we do happen to upload or add any new sheets, new versions of the sheets here within the KL New R22 project, those versions of those the newest versions of those sheets would automatically get pushed over into our sandbox project. Okay, and again, we can still leverage the build toolset down here to take a look at the different incoming or outgoing sheets or files, and we can look at and see, is there automation built in with that? Is there not? And also we have the ability to, again, end or break that bridge, to delete that bridge from those projects, so that would then at that point stop the automatic updates. And that's regardless of whether we're talking about that from the aspects of sheets or files themselves. Okay. All right, team, that was it's been quite a bit of information that we've been talking about today, but again, I feel like it's been some great information to share. So with that pretty much wraps up the webinar for today. I certainly do appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining me. And if you have any questions at all about any of the functionality that I've discussed or demonstrated in today's webinar, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can always reach out to your designated account manager here at ATG USA, or if you're not 100% for sure who that person might be, feel free to submit an email to sales@atgusa.com, and we'll get that routed to the dedicated account executive for your company. And if it is a question that's specific to this webinar, please feel free to, in the subject line, add leveraging the cloud beyond design or something like that in the subject line, so they'll understand that it's in reference to this webinar. And not only can it get routed to the correct account executive, but it can also be routed to me personally as well. So again, thank you for your time. I hope this has been beneficial, and look forward to seeing you in future webinars. Have a great rest of your day.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.